It's freaking rapping, the smartest show on the internet. If you don't hear something new, money back guaranteed. I'm King Cooper here with Alex and Flizzo. Hey boys, let's play Wrecking or Rapping. Forget the fiery Ferrari, got me in a Bugatti. The whip slip, the dipstick, the pick slick Rick. The coat is cold, the boat is sold. Cash stacked is the fruit I sowed. Gobble these gobstoppers, giving the nation salvation now and later. Licking the lolly for longer for little. The light of your love and master individual. All right, Wrecking or Rapping, you must choose one.
We'll go
I'm gonna
with
say
wrecking because
wreck.
I didn't understand most of that.
Have you ever had gobstoppers?
I think the problem was I was definitely trying to focus on what the words were.
I did say gobstopper.
You
Gobbling
did.
these gobstoppers. I figured
Yeah.
you would go cocoa nuts over the candy
Well,
references.
but I think that's the thing. I think I focused too much on the things you referenced and not any on the actual like song part of it. I was just like, oh, I know that word. I know that word.
Flizzo, you gave wrecking. Do you have a thought on why?
Gobbling on gobstopper.
Yeah, that's a pretty wreck in the rap world. All right,
Yeah.
before we get too deep, I want to share a quote from Randy1964 on my blog, drawingmylifeaway.com. Check it out. I was talking about the success of a YouTube short we had and comparing my thousands of views to Kim and Kanye when they made $1 million a minute. Yeah, they made $1 million a minute. They did. They made $1 million a minute. And Randy1964 said, the difference between 1,000 and 1,000,000 is just a few zeros. A zero is nothing, really. What do you think about that comparison?
I mean, technically, yeah.
Between 1,000 and 1,000,000?
Yeah, but that the difference is only zeros, and a zero is nothing. So it's an optimistic perspective.
That is very optimistic way to look at that, yeah. Otherwise, if you really think about it, it's a daunting, comparison. But yeah, if
That's
you just
staring
say,
into
oh,
the abyss.
yeah.
If you really think about life, that's when you're staring into the abyss. But you need these kind of fun things to pull you out. Like, that's nothing. A guy that did that very well was Shakespeare. Maybe we should read some. I'm still just going through his sonnets, up to sonnet 46 now. Here's what I have written down to kind of give you an idea of what's going to happen. The eye and heart are battling it out for how to find love. They get into a legal dispute, and the matter is settled that the eye gets the outward appearance and the heart gets what's inside. Here's Shakespeare's Sonnet 46. Mine eye and heart are at a mortal war, how to divide the conquest of thy sight. Mine eye, my heart, thy picture's sight would bar, my heart, mine eye, the freedom of that right. My heart doth plead that thou in him dost lie, a closet never pierced with crystal eyes. But the defendant that plea deny, and says in him thy fair appearance lies. To side this title is impaneled, a quest of thoughts all tenants to the heart, and by their verdict is determined, the clear eye's moiety and the dear heart's part. As thus mine eye do is thy outward appearance, and my heart's right thy inward love of heart. Did you keep up with the words this time, Alex?
Lots of hearts. And then it sounds like you said moi, which was weird.
Yeah, it was actually a word that I don't really know if I pronounced it right. I didn't end up looking up the word, but if you want to look up Shakespeare Sonnet 46 and read it, you'll come across that word. Then maybe you can, I don't know, send us an email, tell us what it means, how to pronounce it. You can link the YouTube video on how to pronounce words. That's what I usually do.
For
There is
some
a
reason, that sonnet seems like he wrote it while he was very bored.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't have some of the enthusiasm and passion that I've heard in other sonnets. I think it's just kind of, or maybe it was the way you read it.
Yeah, let me try.
Well, but after you get through a few hundred,
Mine
you're kind of
eye
just like,
and heart are at a mortal war. How to divide the conquest of thy sight. What if it was like that? And what if Shakespeare sounded a little more like Seinfeld? Mine eye and heart are at a mortal war. How to divide. Anyway, so the legal battle dispute and the plea deny that Shakespeare wrote, it reminded me of Eminem in the Killer remix. He had a similar legal jargon rhyme. He says, My sentences are harsh. Every single bar's like a verdict. I say it with conviction, but this time you're not going to serve it. But as soon as I read it, you know that you're about to get murdered when I capital punish and then put you in a box like a juror. To catch all the legal words?
There's a few
but
in there.
Yeah.
being put in a box like a drawer is not a bad thing. Like, I assumed the box was going to be like a coffin. It's like this one, he
That
was
could
just
be.
like, "Oh, I'm going to make you do some work."
Well,
But
I
some people
think.
despise jury duty, though. So you can
Did you
look at
see
it
that
that way.
show, the reality show of the guy that did jury duty?
Yes.
What do you
No.
think of that? Because I think it might have been partly criminal. And that's a thing that we're going to get into a lot today is the media controlling people's thoughts and existence. Today I'll
I
explore ideas
loved
still
it.
in the works, and the issues addressed are still unfolding. A reason I don't want to consume media that is currently being released is I don't want that influence. Choose the words that appear in your life, even the ones you hear, to the best of your abilities. I've lived enough that I have confidence in my assessments and need to create my own media to explore new land. So yeah, you loved it, but I don't know, it's terrifying. Don't you
Well,
think? They could
could
just
you
The
capture
whole
you?
thing was
can
fake.
you explain it to me? Because
Oh, it
I
was?
don't know what you guys were talking about.
So, it's
So,
just a
so
Truman
wait, do
show,
you?
but
No,
a guy
it's
shows up
Joe
to
Schmo.
jury duty. Oh yeah, Joe Schmo. But that's still Truman Show, Matrix, Plato's Cave. So,
Yeah,
guy shows up to jury duty that he was just assigned to, but everything around him and the whole case is then scripted and filled with actors.
Okay.
but it's in California, so Cyclops, James Morrison, is one of the jurors in it. So like he's legit like talking to an actor and is like, "Man, you look really familiar. I don't know why I know who you are." And like that's part of like that's one of the best parts of the show because like episode 2 or something, he's talking to him and he's like, have you seen Sonic the Hedgehog or X-Men or any of these other movies that I've been?" He's like, "No, man, I don't know any of those movies." And then like he's like the next day he comes back and he's like, "What is that?"
It was like Road Trip. It was some
Yeah,
like low
it's not.
budget,
It's not
almost a
Road Trip though. It's like the
poor.
bad version of Road Trip. He's
Yeah,
like, "Oh, this
that guy
movie,
was in.
I remember this. This movie was great." And it's that movie where
Oh, with
the
the
kid dresses
Amish
up as a donut.
thing, right?
Yeah, with Seth Green as the Amish guy, and it's that movie. He's
Yeah.
like, "Oh, you were in this movie, and this movie was the best movie I've ever seen." It's like this guy's insane. Like this is not the best
So
movie
Yeah.
anyone's ever seen.
so let me get
Yeah.
this straight. He gets a notice that he's to appear for jury duty,
Mm-hmm.
but this is all staged by a Hollywood studio.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was kind of in around the time
Is
of the
that not
Johnny
illegal?
Depp Amber Hearst trial, because, and that was so well written that you would believe this as well.
Yeah,
I
that
guess it
either
does.
that's got to be fake though.
Well,
You
it
can't
does
just have
actually get filmed
fake
in a
jury duty.
courthouse.
I mean,
I mean,
you
everything
can make
about
a
it is
courthouse.
fake, but like,
Oh yeah.
no, they filmed
The
it in the
case
actual
was fake.
courthouse though. Like, but everything else about it is fake, and like everyone uses fake names except James Morrison because he's like an actual actor, and like
And then
I
they'll
loved
do.
it.
That's what I'm saying. It's criminal.
I loved it. I
They're
loved it.
telling
I
you
loved.
that you are being watched at all times. Accept it, and if we choose to control you, we will make you what we want. And when before they started the show, they're calling him the hero. So like the cameras are watching him show up to the parking lot of the trial or the jury duty. They're like, all right, hero is landed. And so they've already decided what they're going to make him into. And then, years later, I see him on commercials with Ryan Reynolds.
So
Makes me
yeah,
sick.
I think it sounds very fake. The premise, like you couldn't fake jury duty.
Yeah, I guess if you've never
concept-
done jury duty, then it's easy to confuse you to what jury duty really is.
Yeah, I mean, I rip them up after the first sentence that I read. So games is a live service, and awful movies / shows that seem to ruin industries. Don't think that a company is making a mistake, that is a mistake. It's possible to make money on a loss. So GameStop and AMC are notorious examples of shorting a company and then speed running bankruptcy. That's how they make money off of a loss. We've said the value of something is only that if you sell it. Some people can extract the value from the business by running it into the ground. You may have heard of Mitt Romney did this.
The big example I remember, I used to work for Sears years ago, and one of the guys who ran the company also thought he can extract more profit from it. through his own company. So he had a like real estate firm, and he sold all of Sears's property, and then had the stores now rent through the company that he owned.
Wow.
And then eventually virtually bankrupt the company by extracting all that equity from its property. It keeps happening though. Like I think Red Lobster is the latest victim of that. That's exactly. They try to make it sound like it was the bottomless shrimp or endless shrimp category.
I have heard that.
Promotion, but it was actually
what we're talking about. How the media tries to control what you're thinking.
Yeah. It was actually it's because they were selling the property and charging like upping the rent for those businesses, so they couldn't make money. But before, when they owned their property, they were profitable. The business that was running successfully for so many years is now struggling, even though the only thing that's changed is who owns the building. So, yeah, it's
a shame.
Finding ways to extract money, and then I guess controlling the narrative about what's actually causing the problem.
What I wanted to connect this to is gentrification works in a similar way. The saying goes they stopped making land a long time ago. The land or surrounding areas can be intentionally run down to lower the price. A neighborhood can be bought and improved quickly if the purchaser was causing the problem, then stopped. And that's how new usable land appears to be created.
And if you look at specifically Philadelphia, I know a lot of people have been saying this about Kensington was allowed to be an open air like drug market and stuff. Slowly but surely, all around that area has been bought up and turned into these luxury condos or high end apartments. Temple University's buying up the area, and it's just kind of closing in on where the epicenter of where all the big drug problem was. There's been some conspiracy theories tossed around that it was kind of intentionally set up that way by the local government, but who knows? It just looks that way, though.
Yeah, so I guess the theory of how that would work is we're going to not police this area, or like we're not going to go there because we consider it too dangerous. It gets worse because we're not being responsible with it. And then the price diminishes, or even the price of the area around it diminishes. So you can buy that cheap, and then you've got them surrounded. Whenever you're ready to make your move, you just get rid of the whole problem together, and then you have a new hipster haven.
Dude, I was watching an episode of the animated Batman series. That's basically the plot of one of those episodes. Like Crime Alley, that neighborhood is just like a bad neighborhood, and then the houses are condemned, and then so the mob boss hires someone to come start fires. And so it's like, oh, well, if they burn down, no one's going to want the rest of this neighborhood, so I can just buy it all up and make it something else. So yeah, that is the plot of that episode, and that's basically Kensington minus the fires.
Rocky famously took place in Kensington, so when in Philadelphia they try and make it look as dirty and nasty as possible, they go to Kensington. Please take a moment to subscribe or follow the channel. Alex, what's wrecking your week?
So I've been thinking about it long and hard, because I do try to find things that are like, oh, you could probably try a way to change this. But this week there's no growth on this one. The thing that's bothering me this week is this heat. It's been at least 2 weeks now. It's been too hot to do anything, and it's just been uncomfortable and All
right, you want the solution. Bring back the guillotine and find me Bill Gates.
So how hot was it out there?
How hot was it?
I didn't look.
So
because I've been dealing with heat where I'm at.
Fry an egg on your forehead.
So
I think yesterday was 90.
So I was at 117 degree heat.
Nope.
Dry.
It's a dry heat.
It was horrible. There's no dry or humid heat when it's 117 degrees. It's just hot and uncomfortable. I remember stepping out. I had to get gas. I was driving between LA and or Las Vegas and LA, and I had to get gas in the middle of nowhere. Just stepped outside, and it just felt like a blow dryer was just on my face, like this far from my face, but everywhere. I don't know how people live like that.
I was foolish enough to once run out of gas in Death Valley, and I had to buy gas in Death Valley National Park,
Yeah.
and it was expensive. Let me tell you.
I was close to that. I was close to that area.
But yeah,
Well, I guess
it's
once you have a
you might not.
monopoly on the gas station, you can't you can charge whatever you want.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
You might not know it, but on the West Coast, there's this tiny bit of greenery, and then just deserts that are like the abyss for a long time. Then there's the Midwest, which is just grass.
Yeah, yeah. I did see. I was in Arizona, like middle of the desert, and there was all this green for a tree farm.
Mm.
So that can't be, natural.
Mm-hmm.
They're just farming trees. I was wondering where
Well,
that water came from.
yeah, hopefully
They
they did
want
a
Christmas over there too.
smart. Well, it does need more trees because that's how it's going to be fixed. It just all needs to be done in nature, and then they need to be shaded when they're young, and so you're not using too much. I'm a big supporter of drip irrigation because I think a lot of the water is lost, went to evaporation when you shoot it out. So you just want dip, 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 dip.
Well, you also
Hey,
sort the water at night too, right?
yeah. Sun before sunrise or after sunset. Maybe both, depending on if it's 117 degrees out. Flizzo, don't you wonder if anything historic happened this week?
So this week in history, the original iPhone debuted June 29th
Oh,
of 2007 as the
changed our
phone of the
world.
future. Even though this was not the first smartphone, it was the first to combine all the features of a smartphone with a much more polished user interface. The iPhone fused multiple devices into one. The utility of a cell phone paired with the iPod that was now capable of connecting to the internet. This integration, along with the iPhone's sleek design and easy, navigable user interface, revolutionized how we communicate. Apple's marketing campaign and ability to build hype around the release of the iPhone got all eyes on the device and ensured its place in history. Today, nearly 1.46 billion people use the iPhone daily, and 6.84 billion people use smartphones. Smartphones are now ubiquitous to everyday life and are the primary way many of us consume our information, communicate with friends and family, and even earning a living with their smartphones. So we can thank or blame the team at Apple, led by Steve Jobs, for these devices that you are probably watching this on. Also, this week in history, the Globe Theatre burned down in 1613 during a production of Shakespeare's Henry VIII. During the scene, a theatrical cannon misfired, which caught wooden beams and thatching on fire. The fire burned out of control, ultimately destroying the theater. However, it was rebuilt in June the following year. And that's this week in history.
I like the idea of a theatrical cannon.
Right? Like,
if it still goes boom, it's not so theatrical.
I think it didn't shoot cannonballs, but it shot like wadding. I just put too much wadding, and it shot out and caught the thatching on fire. And they said, "Oops."
There's a recording of the 1812 overture that has real cannon fire, and so that's the da 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 da. And there's warnings on it that cannon fire is way too loud. But the other thing, the iPhone, yeah, how that has. I was thinking that before the iPhone, the internet wasn't so useful, and that changed in what you could do. I mean, everything could be done. At that point, we hadn't really implemented it, and now we do. We've implemented all of your normal life, but now there's even add-ons, especially with AI.
We were all around before then. So I remember the internet and how useful everything was. Social media even was around. Facebook, I joined Facebook in like 2004. AIM, you still had to have patience with stuff. So like a Facebook post of what happened like the next day. So like you had a party, you went out, you met friends, you got home, then you requested people, you posted some pictures, and then everybody saw it the next day or maybe a couple days later. It wasn't like, hey, this is what I'm doing right this minute. Instant Messenger or AIM, AOL Instant Messenger was you had an away message. Hey, I'm at the movies watching whatever, I'll be back later. Nobody can really contact you.
Yeah, you signed off. You
And
don't
you
sign
just
off anymore.
yeah, you either signed off or you had an away message, but people know that you were busy and to not bother you. Now it's like I want to talk to you now. Here's a message. I know you read it,
Yeah.
so you better answer my message. So it's made us more connected, but also I guess we've lost our
Well, we're more
privacy.
connected to the machine as well. So, in
Yeah.
that sense, a little less human. On the idea of which is the better path of life, I've got the prodigal son prepared for us today of the Bible. Oh, you're already shaking your head and you haven't heard it? So,
I've heard it.
so, so you're not a fan of it as well? Is there anything you want to discuss before? Well, we should read it first. Are you ready? This is in Luke 15 verses 11 through 32. I'll only be reading select verses, but we'll say out the numbers. So I'm starting at 11. A certain man had 2 sons. The younger of them said to his father, Father, give me the portion of goods that falleth to me. And he divided unto them his living. And not many days after, the younger son gathered all together and took his journey into a far country, and there wasted his substance with riotous living. So then things get bad for him. Verse 17. And when he came to himself, he said, How many hired servants of my father's have bread enough and to spare, and I perish with hunger? I will arise and go to my father, and will say unto him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and before thee, and am no more worthy to be called thy son. Make me as one of thy servants. His father sees him, and he wraps his hands around his neck. 22. But the father said to his servants, Bring forth the best robe, and put it on him, and put a ring on his hand, and shoes on his feet, and bring hither the fatted calf, and kill it, and let us eat and be merry. For this my son was dead, and is alive again. He was lost, and is found. And they began to be merry. So then the elder son was working in the field, and he sees this. He's not very happy. 28. And he was angry, and would not go in. Therefore came his father out and entreated him. And he answering said to his father, Lo, these many years do I serve thee, neither transgressed I at any time thy commandment, and yet thou never gavest me a kid that I might make merry with my friends. But as soon as this thy son was come, which hath devoured thy living with harlots, thou hast killed for him the fatted calf. And he said unto him, Son, thou art ever with me, and all that I have is thine. End of reading. So now would you like to air your grievances, Alex?
Dude, the only level of that makes that I feel acceptable is the fact that it's like he had a kid that he thought was dead and is not dead. It's like cool. From a father's perspective is the only way you could say that that story is acceptable. But like everyone uses that in the world that it's like, oh, I've been loyal to this cause for so long and you don't even acknowledge me anymore. But as soon as something new comes in or something else happens, it's like, oh, that's the best thing ever. And it's like you don't realize the damage that does to other people. And
Mm-hmm.
like I get that he's like, oh, but everything here is yours. And it's like, yeah, but you're not giving him any of it. It's like, oh, well, like once I die, you'll have it. It's like, yeah, but now that he's back, no, I won't. Like you're never gonna like write him off anymore. He's back now, and it's just so.
Well, I think the son that's back is not the elder.
No, he's not.
Yeah, the younger. So the elder would still
Yeah,
inherit the stuff. I also think like, well, if the elder asked for his inheritance now, he might receive it. We don't know that he has to wait till the dad to die. But I do think that the main focus is on that sort of idea. My son was dead and is alive, was lost and is now found, and it also ties into the deathbed conversion debate. It's a similar thing where they were lost the entire time from God. So God is the Heavenly Father. And in these last minutes, they actually sorted it out. So, of course, you're going to welcome the child back.
Yeah.
I should say that the Duchess, our sister, also had a problem similar to what yours seems to be. And she said that the father took for granted the son
The
in
eldest
the one
doing
son
that
or
that.
the
stayed.
youngest
And
son?
yeah,
Yeah,
the
no, the
eldest
one that
one by
stayed.
not and that's sort of what you're saying with you don't know how much that hurts the person because like, yeah, they feel as though they've been taken advantage of. My thinking on that is like, but they're doing the eldest son is doing the right thing. Why aren't they happy with that life that they've garnered for themselves by doing the right thing all these years?
Because in the world it becomes an expectation.
Well, it's like what we were saying before, a couple episodes ago, where people aren't getting praised and they feel slighted by that.
Yeah.
So even by you kind of giving them some praise for doing the right thing or doing the thing they've always done, eldest son, if he got a little praise every now and then, probably wouldn't be so slighted. But if you never receive it and then somebody who just shows up one day receives all of it, and you're like, what? Well, why did I just do this? Why was I so consistent and good for so long?
So yeah,
and not
I guess we should
receiving any
answer that. Why were they so good and consistent for so long?
Because they wanted to appease their father.
And
Or
so
that's
they
just-
did. Did they do it for the fatted calf, though? They didn't. But
Yeah,
they
you
only
don't do it
cared
for
about
that,
it when
but-
they saw somebody else get the fatted calf.
I'm willing to bet
Well,
they did it
maybe
for
that
the
was an
praise
option.
and never got the praise.
Well, people have a sense of duty and service, but
Yeah.
that doesn't mean that they don't want appreciation. So if you don't ever receive appreciation, then you see somebody who does after not doing the same job you did, I think you feel slighted.
I appreciate
But
you
I mean,
guys
even-
doing the show with me and Alex wearing your silly hat like my silly outfit, and I appreciate Flizzo's t-shirts, especially the Nightwing one, because I liked him.
I liked it.
I'm getting deeper into this media stuff. The media's shift in diversity and inclusivity was the industry realizing they could make money off of more people. The middle class had grown. Put people in characterizing buckets, and the more buckets means more accurately targeted advertising. And now I know it's hard to believe in the middle of Pride Month that corporations might be saying what you want to hear so that they make money, but that's just my opinion. Corporations are people too, you know.
People believe that.
Citizens United.
Why do people? So this is what relates to the Edward Bernays and why you need to know this stuff, and probably even Socrates is people believe what they hear, and that's why you have to protect your ears.
Yeah, but didn't Edward make that sauce? And that's what made him famous?
Gonna strangle this microphone.
Well, so with some of the inclusion stuff, I mean, obviously there was an issue for a long time where you had people playing different roles that they shouldn't have been, like John Wayne as Attila the Hun, which is like stuff like that was going down, right?
I don't know. I do like if it were to come out that sort of right now, that kind of awkwardness of acting, that would be appreciated. I think that somebody that shouldn't play the role is. But I do know what you're saying, that and the importance of that as an issue of.
So I think that was the initial push for that, which justifiable. And then like most things, when it catches to be a trend, then I always see things as a pendulum. So obviously it was over here where John Wayne's playing Attila the Hun, and then at one point it shifts to another thing, kind of like the total opposite of what was happening, where white male was playing every part. Now it's like everybody but a white male is playing every part.
That gets into the CVS commercial I want to talk about.
Yeah, whether it makes sense or not, they just kind of like, oh, let's throw it out. And I think it should probably be swinging back to where it's like, hey, if it makes sense, it makes sense. Let's do it in an appropriate way. Let's include people of different cultures, ethnicities, what have you. Something sensible, not
treat people like people. And one way that I do think that we help that swing back to correction is that, like I said, we're making our own media, and that's something the iPhone made possible. I remember all the difficulties I've gone through with old media, of like whether it's burning CDs or just like having a camcorder and tapes, rewinding it with a screwdriver, that type of stuff. Now with the iPhone or the smartphone, we can do all this media stuff in our house, in the car while you're traveling. So we take over that spot. the opposite of John Wayne pendulum swing is where we may or may not be at right now. And that's what I'm referring to with the CVS commercial. Hopefully I'll put the link in the description. I'd already sent it to you guys. It's titled, "These Are the People." And the commercial is an example of their diversity. And there's no place for just regular guys. In this case, there were 0 white guys, I believe, of regular type.
I think
the closest thing is the
pharmacist
dad
man
at the end that quickly
is
runs off.
No, there's a pharmacist man that's a guy too, and I think he might be white, but you want to see the back of his head though.
I had the image of that pharmacist prepared, and he's not white, and also both those guys have beards, so you know my opinions on that. And it's less than a second, and you see him from the back half of his head. So that's what I'm saying, is they're trying to corner you away, and in my opinion, that's the defense of the masculinity is where I'm getting at with all that. I don't care about who Hollywood shows because I don't care about Hollywood. Because there are few good male role models, we as a society get less good dads. And without good dads, society's children do things to get love and attention. OF. I've noticed a lot of advertising of women with thick glasses, so much so that I began to wonder what's going on. Girls think glasses make them look cute, or that they can make an average girl a little more interesting. And anytime a guy is shown wearing glasses, it's to make him less masculine. So why all the glasses in media? Are the visually impaired underrepresented?
Dude, with that start of your sentence, I thought glasses was a metaphor.
So, going back to
guess.
the CVS thing real quick.
Okay.
I just watched it again. There's a couple like guys in there.
You might notice the teenage boy with painted nails selling makeup. He is white.
I didn't notice.
Like, there's one dad. He walks into the scene, hands off groceries, and then
he just like throws something and then walks out.
This is what I'm saying. Your body, your eyes see all this imagery, Clockwork Orange, but you don't actually pick up on it, and so but that it shifts your life, and it had a negative shift, I'm sure, like you're talking with the John Wayne at that time. So there is good to be done with it. In this case, I'm talking about advertising, so that's why I'll say, look, people are trying to make money off you, so be careful. Don't just say like, hey, this person supports me, I'm going to support their company. No, it's a company, they want to make money.
You don't like beards and glasses?
No. Those are the sullied people, I might label them. Just one step above savage.
Well, so there's
human.
There's a thing somebody brought up years ago where like nerd culture became popular. That's where you get like the Star Wars is now like hip. Star Trek is hip. But like then glasses became cool.
That it was extra odd because they probably don't have lenses because that would have a reflection on the camera. So they have to go through extra steps to even deal with this accessory. So they must really want it. Anyway, that's just another crazy thought I had. Here's 24. The numbers are 3, 3, 6, and 2.
3 plus 3, 6. 6 plus 6, 12. 12 times 2, 24.
Woo-hoo. See, I went with 3 minus 2 is 1. 6 times 3 is 24 times 1 is 24.
That's interesting.
Oh, no, sorry. 3 plus 1 is 4. 6 times 4 is 24. Sorry. I did my math wrong there for a second.
So what I've got now is like...
I'm upset that there's 2 ways to do that. At least 2 ways, if not more.
Well, if you get into doing something like squaring and square rooting and even going into negative numbers, you could probably create even more ways of solving it.
I will get so angry if that's how you want us to start figuring out these equations.
Yeah, but it's good for you. Keeps you sharp of just how to deal with problems in life. You got to think outside the box. What I have now is like a post-credit scene, since most people would see 24 as the end of the show. We talked about possible scenarios last week of falling off a cruise ship. That's an example of guys getting distracted, looking for practical problem solving. It's what we do. When the pandemic started, in my opinion, early March 2020, the Queen and I were getting ready to travel out of the country. And there was this bad feeling in the air. So I began preparing for what I thought would be the worst case scenario, a plane crash. I began running plane crash drills inside my greenhouse as a plane. What would I do? Then when I heard what people were saying was actually happening and the level of fear they had, I knew there was manipulation. I study how to make small words big or clean up a tiny disaster. As Henry Kissinger said, it's constructive ambiguity. And RIP KIG. You don't miss him?
No.
What is KIG?
Oh, okay. That was my nickname for Kissinger. Me and the dog used to just go tear up on DC's strip.
He's
That's not.
he's a shady character, to say the
so
least.
confused.
He was ambiguous. Anything else you guys
There's
got
no
for the
That's
show?
not what ambiguous means anymore, but yeah.
You're right up there with Mr.
Yeah, American heroes.
Uh,
Flizzo, have you gotten on social media yet?
Yeah, I'm on Instagram.
Do you want to share your name yet?
I think it's
keep
Flizzo.
building this? Okay, with the
I think it's Flizzo.
FLIZ letter O.
Yeah, I gotta figure that one out.
All right, well, hopefully we'll get your username
I
sorted.
forget how it's spelled. It's not the way I spell it. Like plainly.
Follow Alex.
THILZO.
Oh.
Is it an O though? It might be a 0. It was hard to get.
It looks like it's an O.
Okay.
I pulled it up. In all lowercase.
PHLIZO. All letters.
Yes.
Okay. And follow Alex on Google Maps. Link in description. His username on all social media is CU3Scott. Check out my website, drawingmylifeaway.com. Thank you for listening. I hope you have a good day. Goodbye.
Deuces.